And what, monks, is the noble truth of origin of suffering? It is that craving which gives rise to rebirth, bound up with pleasure and lust, finding fresh delight in now here, now there. That is to say, sensual craving, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear noble friends, so we have met again for another mindfulness session that we usually have on a weekly basis on Wednesdays. And presumably this is the last session for the year. So these sessions we usually have a discussion, and that discussion is one-way traffic and the other is two-way traffic. And one-way traffic is called the listening supportive factor, and two-way traffic is called discussion supportive factor. So for the talk, the topic we have selected is the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and we have discussed that at length, and we are almost at the last part of the discourse. And in that, there is a section called 4 Noble Truth. And in that 4 Noble Truth, the Buddha is presenting the treasure he has found. The treasure he found was suffering is a noble truth, irrespective of who you are, what you are, where you are. Suffering is inevitable. And then he did not just stop there. He went few steps further. He found the reason for it. And for the same reason, now the light is there. For the same reason, he was able to get rid of that cause of suffering, and then he found a way to do it as well. So that is the 4 Noble Truth that he has found, and that is where he is taking us as well, asking us to practice mindfulness. So by practicing mindfulness, what we basically do is we challenge the suffering and reduce the suffering to the maximum extent possible. And after reducing the suffering to the maximum extent possible, the Buddha realized that it cannot be completely eradicated, but it can be reduced to the bare minimum. And then that bare minimum can be born. There is no need to get rid of it, right? So therefore, he said, whatever you do, there will have little bit of suffering, and that suffering is after reducing tons and tons and tons of suffering, and which you all have already maybe experienced in your practices, and certain things that we were agitated with or agitated by, those things we can bear up now. And those things we are looking at them from a different perspective. Our attitude towards them have changed. We haven't intentionally done it, and that is what the mindfulness does. So in explaining what suffering is, Buddha has given a huge range, and in that what he has included in suffering is the birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, despair, association with unbeloved, separations from the loved, stress of not getting what is wanted. In brief, he says, clinging onto the 5 aggregates are suffering. So all those things are for us to either satisfy the form, or in other words, the physical process, or to satisfy the mental process. So therefore, if we cling on to our physical or mental process, then you are asking for trouble, is the simple message of the Buddha. So after explaining suffering in that manner, is giving the reason That is what is mentioned in that stanza that I just read out at the beginning. And what, monks, is the noble truth of origin of suffering? It is that craving. And that craving, the Blessed One says, is not just craving for the sake of craving. He is giving 3 characteristics that is included in that craving. One is which gives rise to birth. Which gives rise to birth means not that you will die and be born again, and that is also included. And you wish the recurrence of the thing. So if you wish the recurrence of the thing, for that to happen over and again and again and again, even in the same life, even in the same time, even in 5 minutes, which means it is giving rise to birth. And the craving bound up with pleasure and lust. So you will expect something over and over again, because you are bound to it, you are attached to it. And you are attached to it not for anything else. You have some satisfaction to gain from it. And that is what he is mentioning. You are bound up with pleasure and lust, and we call it Nandi Raga Sahagata. And the third attribute for the craving is a great delight wherever that you have it, right? So it may be sometimes something that is not acceptable by the society or acceptable by other people, but you have a great delight in it, right? So it is not that when you have craving, you will have only on good side. You will have, you can have anything. And therefore, the Blessed One says, if you have craving, it is like a wound of a leper, right? So leper enjoys scratching that wound so much, and sometimes he burns it, and more he burns it, higher his pleasure is, higher his satisfaction is. And so therefore, he says that he takes great delight in having that craving. So that is called Tatra Tatra Abhinandani. Wherever you have it, and you just sink in it, you just get bogged down in it, and you think that is the only way out. And that is what is happening in the sensual world. And everyone is after continuously sense pleasure, from Monday to Friday, and Saturday, Sunday, still sense pleasure in a different way from midday to late in the night. So what mindfulness is challenging all the above 3. What it is doing is, he is challenging, gives rise to birth, right? So there may have, while you are sitting, those thoughts may come into your heads over and over again, not just in one sitting or one walking. It happens every time. But what you simply do is, you just observe it. You don't stop everything and go home and start the sensual pleasure or what our mind is asking. So mindfulness is therefore challenging these characteristics of craving, and thereby the craving itself, and bound up with pleasure and lust. So you challenge the pleasure and lust that you may have, and you just do something which is so boring, and take 2 mats together and just walk up and down. You don't get anything. And in that manner, and after all, the place you are walking has nothing. It's just an empty hall. If you go outside, it's so empty. There is nothing to grab your senses. So therefore, it's again a challenge to our pleasure and lust that the craving is carrying. And as a result, there is nothing for you to take a great delight in. And while walking, you feel so much bored, and you're waiting eagerly what time the bell goes, because it is so boring. And even while sitting, it's the same story. But continuing that, even reluctantly, you are challenging these three characteristics of craving. And today, or not today, in that sentence, or in that stanza I chanted, he's giving three types of craving. And the types of craving are: one is sensual craving, other is the craving for existence, and the next is craving for non-existence. It is something completely new for the human mind. We can understand the first two to some extent. Sensual craving, I mean, sensual craving is pretty obvious, and craving for existence, yeah, you can argue and rationally think, and yes, we have some craving for existence. But craving for non-existence is very irrational in the mind of some people. But we will see those things. And first, we will take the sensual craving. In the sensual craving, I think we have discussed this in the last session. Sensual craving is the process of trying to please our sense faculties, right? So we have internal sense bases, which we call our sense faculties, eye, ear, nose, etc., 6 sense bases. And for these sense bases, there are specific sense objects, right? Eye will take only forms. It can't take sounds or tastes or smells or contacts or thoughts. And similarly, the other faculties, ear can take only sound, nose can take only aromas, and tongue can take only tastes, and body will take tactile sensation, and mind will take only mental objects. So when these are connected, it gives rise to a mind relating to that particular faculty. When you are looking at something, you may not have a mind in the taste buds, mind in the eardrum, mind in other faculties, and your mind is in what you see. So therefore, the sensual world, and especially the commercial world, is trying to satisfy all our senses at the same time. So therefore, when they play a song, they do a lot of visuals, and that is to take not only just the ear faculty, but playing with our eye faculty as well, right? So therefore, sensual craving is so muddled up and so entangled, and we think that's the only way to keep ourselves happy. And this connection of internal and external sense bases and the mind arising from that is called the contact. And that contact is giving a feeling which is either good or bad, or pleasant or unpleasant. And that is called the perception of what you see. And you have you take some features, you take some characteristics, you take some separations of the things, and as a result, perceptions will develop as a result of this feeling. And once you have perception, then only the thinking, or they call applied thoughts. Since perception has arisen, you apply your own thoughts to what you have either seen or heard or tasted, whatever your faculty would be. And as a result, when you think, that thinking continues, and with your own conceptualization, and it becomes, after some time, your proliferation will continue unstoppable. And then as a result, you will be overwhelmed with the concepts that is created. And then you will identify yourself with what has been suggested or what has been created by the mind. So you don't therefore find, at the end of the day, you don't know whether it is something that your mind has created or whether it's the reality, right? So then most of the things, what happens is, we, without our knowledge, it has something that has not happened, will be created by our own mind, right? So it goes in either direction. Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be bad, but although we say it good on the face of it, but any proliferation will bring you craving. Any proliferation will bring you suffering only. So this process of creating concepts is leading to craving, and therefore unlearned disciples means those who have not heard of Dhamma, those who have not heard of Buddha, those who are not practicing mindfulness, they run behind agreeable and pleasurable things. Buddha says, piya rupam sata rupam. So, and in that process, when you run behind only on agreeable and pleasurable things, what happens is, you will have to get rid of all unagreeable and non-pleasurable. So therefore, when people are old, they pack all the old people into age caste, right? And they will have a separate group of people looking after them. And when it is unagreeable, you will try to get rid of it, or him, or her, or that, or them. Right? So this is why the wars are taking place. They are not agreeing to what we say. So therefore, they are a cancer to the society in the mind of some people, and a war starts. So all these things have been, all the wars first initiated in our mind because of the thought that has come, and it has been conceptualized, and proliferation has happened, and then it becomes a reality. So that's where and how sensual craving perpetuates. So it keeps going without any boundary, without any barrier, because we always keep looking for agreeable and pleasurable, and it is gone into our flesh, gone into our blood, gone into our bones, it is gone into our bone marrow. So it's very, therefore, difficult to find someone to practice mindfulness where there is no pleasure, where there is no agreeable things. So Buddha says, only intelligent people therefore will seek Dhamma. And majority of the people in the society, majority of living beings in the universe are, including divine beings, most of the divine beings, and they are not after Dhamma. So this happens in relation to all the sense faculties. So end of the day, we have only seeing, only hearing, only tasting, only smelling, and sex and thinking. This is all what we have. And for that, we keep fighting at home, in the society, among the society, and countries, and there is no end in search of agreeable and pleasurable. So common, this is common for animals. So therefore, if there are people doing only that, the question is whether they are real human beings, because they don't use the ability, the power that the mind of a human being has to realize the difference between human beings and animals. Animals, of course, can't help because they can't understand this teaching and there is no way of communicating it to them. But humans have that ability. But even with that, they don't take the next step of understanding it. So that's the sensual pleasure that we discussed sometime a few weeks ago. And today's topic is craving for existence. And this is very interesting. Some people call it craving for becoming. This is very interesting. This can happen in two different ways. One is we have craving for existence in our normal life, even in the sense sphere. We have craving for existence, which is sensual existence. But if you come out of the sensual existence and come to the spiritual world, even in the spiritual world, there is a craving for existence. So if I explain ordinary life becoming or the craving for becoming, when we school, it starts from the schooling itself, right? And most of us, or at least we are pushed, we are encouraged to be the best in the class, to get straight A's, or be ducks in the school or in the class or in that group. By that, what happens is we are craving for particular type of becoming, particular existence to show off, right? So when you go to the university and you want to get a first class or be the dean's best student, so that gives you some identity, some identification. So that is the craving in ordinary life we have. So if you go any further and in your profession, everyone wants to be a doctor, or everyone wants to be a lawyer, or you want to be an accountant, engineer, teacher, singer, dancer, some other artist. So you want to have some existence in a particular way, and that is also craving. And you don't see a direct relationship to sense pleasure in there, but it is some existence that you are after. So that is usually used by the commercial world, and they promote these things. And this is why the promotions have come and advertising have come, because they can make you become what you want. And craving for existence is not only craving for what you call craving for sense pleasure is advertised. Craving for becoming existence is also being promoted. And then you may have a craving to become a community leader. And in Sri Lanka, when you are a bhikkhu is having so many titles, which even the Buddha did not have. That is, even in that society, there are ranks, there are hierarchies, and it's the same thing even in other traditions, other beliefs, right? There are ranks. So people are striving towards it. So without our knowledge, we are going for some craving. Now not sensual pleasure, but some other existence. So the mind is so tricky in putting us and in keeping us, in entangling us in craving. So it goes to such a wide area. And when you take countries, you definitely have heard, to maintain their status, you belong to a particular different group of people. And in that manner, you have doctors club, this club, that club. And then it goes to countries and they have G7 and G20 and Commonwealth and non-aligned, and all sorts of groups are being created to maintain their existence, to maintain their becoming. And we don't see that it is a craving for becoming. And they see that as a way forward in life. Of course, in the sensual world, it looks like it's way forward, but in the eyes of the Buddha, you are asking for trouble, you are asking for suffering only in a different way. So this has gone into such an extent, and some people, by using this, they get even Nobel Prizes and high recognition. And you may have heard of Maslow's motivational theory. And in Maslow's motivational theory, when someone's psychological needs are met, such as food, water, rest, etc., then they want to be safe. They want to have a house. They want to have a family. So safety needs will come into the picture, and then identification will come, and belongingness will come, and then you may have relationship and friends, and especially in your young age, having friends is a very great thing. And if your friend does something, that is the end of the world, especially for young people. And once that need is completed, Maslow says, esteem needs will come into the picture, prestige and feeling of accomplishment. So we work very hard to gain that. And then even after that is satisfied, your final motivation is a self-actualization, the very beautiful word, achieving one's full potential, including creative activity, which means you want to have recognition, right? You want to be the chairman of that society, you want to be the secretary of this society, and you want to be the head of everywhere. So therefore, those who have money, so when most of their needs are fulfilled, they are after recognition. And it is something that you can very clearly see in Sri Lanka. It is in Sri Lankan law as well. They are encouraging people who have money to spend on the religion, and it is happening even in other countries. And USA is mainly allocating considerable amount of their funds to spend their religion, and a lot of people directly put their money in the last will to the temple or to the church. By that, what they gain is they give everything that they have earned, but they gain a lot of recognition, and that is the next need. That is the craving for that existence, esteem, right? So in that manner, this craving for existence is used to motivate people to get more and more work from people, or to what do you call, to fool people. We very clearly see to what extent has he satisfied his needs. So when there is someone very young, they pay just peanuts and get as much work as possible, because they know their needs haven't been fulfilled. But when someone is matured and they can't pay peanuts, but they will have to pay more. So therefore, our craving for existence is exploited in the commercial world to their advantage. So Buddha's explanation for this was in a particular discourse called Bhava Sutta, which means Sutta for existence. Venerable Ananda went to the Blessed One, and on arrival he bowed down to him and then sat to one side. And as he was sitting, he said to the Blessed One, Lord, this word becoming is something that you always use. To what extent is there becoming? He's asking the question, what do you mean by becoming, in other words? Then the Blessed One says, Ananda, if there were no karma ripening in the sensuality property, would sensuality becoming be discerned? And he's again asking, if there were no karma ripening in the form property, would there be a form becoming? If there were no karma ripening in the formless property, would formless becoming be discerned? And for all these three questions, Venerable Ananda says, no, Lord. So there is nothing as such. So if we just go a bit deeper in it, he's asking, no, come ripening the sensuality property. Sensuality property means from in our sense field, the entire, say for example, our entire eye doesn't see. There is a particular property in the eye where the seeing happens. Similarly, the ear, similarly, the nose, similarly, the tongue, right? So, in that sensuality property, the kamma is ripening. Kamma is ripening means you keep asking the same sensual feeling. So, therefore, becoming starts with the sensuality. You want to identify yourself with the sensuality. And similarly for form. For form, kamma ripening means this is why so many beauty parlors are there. This is why so many gyms are there. People want to go there every day, every week, every fortnight, every month, make an appointment and to do things because you want to look after your form property, and that becomes a kamma. Kamma means intention and hardening intention, and you call it ripening of kamma. So your intention becomes so strong to keep your form property the way you want. And it is going to the next day, which says formless property. Formless property, I'm not going to explain it now because we are talking about sensuality and existence. We may have a situation where we go beyond form. Say, for example, although I say I don't explain, so let me give a very, very simple example. When you're observing your breath in sitting, there will have a situation you can't perceive your breath. So breath is a form, and at that time where you are unable to perceive your breath, there will have some happiness without the breath. Some people get scared, of course, but some people will like it because maintaining the breath is so hard. So using that breath, you heighten your awareness. Once your awareness is heightened, you see breath is getting subtler, and you allow it to go to the subtlest. And once it disappears, you just stay with the disappearance of the breath, where there is no problem, no trouble from the form. So you get attracted to formless. So when you get attracted to formless, you may be intentionally liking it. Sometimes you may not see your own intention, but you will look for it over and again, over and again, over and again. And as a result, kamma is ripening in that formless property. So this is the question the Blessed One is asking. Kamma is the field. That is where this becoming starts. Becoming is grown. And consciousness is the seed. That's what the Blessed One says. If you have your consciousness in that particular area, either in the sense, either in the sensuality, or in form, or in formlessness, your consciousness is identifying any of these things. And you provide the craving, you start liking it, you start having it over and over again, and that becomes the temperature, required temperature for the seed to grow. So the consciousness of living being is hindered by ignorance. In the sense, we our consciousness is always, it's not rather hindered as such. Consciousness is based on ignorance. And therefore, we don't know what is happening. We keep cultivating consciousness in the karma field, in the intentional field, and craving keeps growing. So the consciousness of living beings is therefore fettered by craving. As such, they establish in and turn into lower, middle, or refined futures. In other words, if you keep craving for sensual field, you will be only in the births where your sense faculties can be satisfied. It may be human beings, it may be any other animal. We don't know. And if it is middle, which is the form, then definitely you have gone one step ahead of sensuality. So you will be born in a realm where you will be able to have your attention to the breath, or to the physical process, or to some physical concentration. And if you go to a refined realm, you will go even beyond breath, and you will be born in a sphere where there is no form, but you may be having feelings, you may be having perceptions, you may be having consciousness, volition and consciousness, etc. Although I say there is no form, comparatively it is negligible. Not that completely form is gone away, but comparatively it is negligible. It is not tangible. It is not visible. So accordingly, there are three becomings on the basis of this question from the Buddha, based on whether it is sensuality, or based on whether it is form, based on whether it is formless. There are three becomings Buddha has identified. The three becomings are Kama Bhava. Kama Bhava means sensual becoming. And Rupa Bhava. Rupa Bhava means becoming to crave for form. And Arupa Bhava, formless becoming. So these are the three becomings the Blessed One has explained. So I'm not going to take these three in this session. Hope this talk has given some identification, some indications of the gravity of craving for becoming. This is just an introduction to it. So we will dig deeper on about this, and when we meet possibly next time in the next year. So hope you remember what we discussed so far by then. But anyway, we will have a refresher again before we start. So until then, may you have the courage to depreciate as much craving as possible and be well, happy, and peaceful. Peruan Saranai. Blessings of the Triple Gem.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. Anything?
Hello, Fontaine.
How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah.
You have a very, very pretty shirt as well. Colorful.
Yes. Yes. Nice and colourful. So, you mentioned about, well, first of all, you said, welcome noble people. And then, of course, I just thought, I'm not noble. You know, I'm not a noble person. And then you mentioned about types of cravings. So there was like suffering connected to the craving of existence, and suffering connected to the craving of sex, and suffering connected to the craving of existence, non-existence, something like that. So I just remember really for each of those kinds of cravings, some examples of times when that was good. So I remember I had a friend in London, and his girlfriend didn't want him to look at pornography. So he said to her, "I promise I won't do it." So he got a new hobby, and his new hobby was visiting museums. And then I thought it was really funny because I discovered that he was visiting a museum with pre-Raphaelite paintings, and these paintings are of naked women. And I thought that was very funny. And then also I remember, do you know Lent?
No.
In the Christian religion, do you know
yes,
Lent?
yes.
Yeah. I remember when I was younger, I said, okay, so for Lent, I'm not going to eat any chocolate. And then my mum and dad were eating chocolate, and I said, oh, can I just smell the packet? I don't want to eat it, but I just want to smell the packet. And they thought that was so cute, and I think that's nice. And then finally, I remember there was a girl I met, and she said, oh, you know, I don't want to be here. So really she's craving non-existence. And then I said, oh, that's so sad. And she says, yes, but you know, I really want to live in London. So I'm I'm not going to do anything because I really want to live in London. And so those are three examples of where this craving is so funny. And and I think, oh, I don't want to get rid of craving, or even I don't want to become noble, because it's so funny to not be noble. So what are we doing?
First thing, saying that you are noble is not something that you say. It is something that our mind is suggesting that you are not noble. Right? Because all human beings, whether they like it or not, all human beings are noble. Noble because they have a mind that is different to other animals. They have a balanced mind which can be diversified to all the sense faculties the way they want. Other animals, they don't have that capacity. So in that regard, human beings, whether they like it or not, are noble, right? And from what you said, understanding craving in this manner in itself is noble. You know that craving is so funny. You know that this is craving. And you know that funny craving is, the funny side of the craving can be seen. You have understood it. You have realized it. But if you take someone who doesn't see that funny side of craving, he himself is the craving.
What? I don't understand that.
Yeah, because they say, they think that craving is the life. They don't see that craving is a part of mental process. Craving is something that drives us. They think eating something and becoming something is the life. They don't see that it is a craving. Does it make sense?
Not yet. But I'm new.
Yeah. Say for example, someone is striving to become a doctor. And for person like me, I will see that he's having a craving for existence as a doctor. But for him, he hasn't seen that that it is a craving. It is his life working in that manner. So the difference in what you say is you are seeing the funny side of craving. And for me, when I see someone, trying to strive something, it is funny for me because they are asking trouble. Right? In the same way, you have seen that in these three situations, it is funny, but it is craving. So seeing that is noble.
Maybe this word like adorable, like it's adorable to be somebody who craves, to be like a kind of unnoble animal kind of person. It's kind of, oh, so cute, this kind of thing.
Can you all hear me? Yeah. It is rather than adorable. What you said is the word funny is much more appropriate, because from craving, what you have is suffering.
I think if you call it adorable, that sounds arrogant, don't you think?
Yeah. And
I noticed that.
Yeah, since craving is taking you for suffering, and you see it is funny. And in your case, when you are smelling the chocolate packet, inside you are suffering for the taste of it. But you see that craving. So seeing that is very, 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 it is noble. Why it is noble is you have come out of the sensual craving. Now you have the craving of becoming a person who knows the chocolate sense, chocolate smell, but you don't want to eat it. That is coming out of the sensual craving, but you have the craving for becoming, craving for existence. So you can't see that when you are in the sensual craving. This is what we may be discussing in the future. When you come out of sensual craving only, you will see the craving for existence.
I think I can explain it like this. I could wear white clothes, but I don't. I wear really colorful ones.
Yeah. That's your becoming.
Yeah.
But in that there is bit of sensual craving as well. To explain, since you're asking for it, to explain what craving for existence is, it is very easy to explain in the practice. Suppose when you are practicing, you go to a very calm and quiet and serene situation, and you start liking it. You are with the breath, not at all with any sense faculty, and you don't get any sensual thoughts as well, completely out of that as well. So you don't have at least sense perception, as in the case of chocolate smelling, right? So you're completely out of the sensual world, but you are with the breath, or you are with the walking, and you enjoy it so much. And you want to be with the breath 24/7, because it has taken away all the other troubles that you had with the sensual world. But still it is craving, Buddha says. That is the craving for existence. Existence in that sphere. That is
I think I have a very strong craving for existence.
Everyone
I think mine seems to be particularly strong.
Yeah, if you see that, you are in the right track. A lot of people don't see that our craving is strong. It is not that yours is particularly strong. It is strong in everyone. But if someone sees that I have a craving for existence, which means his or her sensitivity is very high. So you
So
can
paradoxical.
be honest enough to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
that is nobility.
it's interesting. The more you realize how stupid you are, the more aware your awareness increases. So you become wiser in a way. So paradoxical.
Yeah. And this is why the Blessed One says, after doing everything, all what you have is seeing our inclination to suffer. That's the first noble truth. And then he knows the reason.
Yes. So thank you for your words.
Thank you.
I'll say something.
Yes.
Sort of related topic, but also a little bit odd topic. I was talking to my cousin the other day, and she asked me if I was going to get married. And straight away the answer was no, I would never get married. And then I gave a reason, which I didn't think about much, but I was thinking about it later. So I said that I'm really afraid of suffering. And I don't know why I said it, but that's what I said as the reason. I didn't really think about it. And the thing that I was a bit odd, or why I thought I'd mention, is I'm not really afraid of things anymore. But I guess underlying, I think probably I am afraid of suffering. Is this something normal that happens to people? That they
Afraid of suffering. Afraid of suffering.
It's not like it's not like I'm thinking about it, but that's what was in my mind.
Yeah. People are not afraid of suffering. People are not afraid of suffering at all. People suffering.
Sorry, could you
Does
repeat
it make
that?
sense?
Sorry, could
Because
you repeat that?
people embrace suffering instead of being afraid of it. If you are afraid of suffering, you have seen the danger. You have seen the danger in the life, right? In the life, what you have only suffering. Say from the time you are born, only 6 or 7 years you will be completely free. After that, go to school, study. And is there any kid who is willingly going to school?
No.
Most of them don't like, right? But after a certain age, they start liking it because they are seeing the things happening in the world. So they want to become one of them. It may be anything. So for that, they will have to strive. Again, they embrace suffering to go to that target. And then once that target is achieved, then they want to get married or have a girlfriend or boyfriend. And after that, get married. So which means you can't have solved your own problem. You are getting connected with another set of problems. And then create another 1 or 2 or 3 or few sets of problems as kids. And then it keeps going. So people are not afraid of suffering. They love suffering. So therefore, the people, what Buddha says is, we are addicted to suffering. And everyone is selling suffering, but in a nice packet. So if you are afraid of suffering, it is not normal. People will say, okay, you are so negative and you are so antisocial and all that. That is because you like real happiness. People see happiness in suffering, but those who are afraid of suffering, come out of suffering and look for the reason of suffering. They are after real suffering, rather real happiness.
Good. Thank you.
everyone.
I do love complaining. I love like when you complain, you're like, oh, it's so nice to complain about how it's kind of similar.
It was not clear to me.
Zach likes complaining.
When I'm complaining, it makes me feel better.
No. Yeah, I would put it differently. Complaining means you see things differently. When you see things differently, you complain or you argue about it.
But the reason I like complaining is because then people give me sympathy, and I love getting sympathy from people. It's so nice. I love it when people go, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm, "Oh, it's so it feels so nice."
Cunning man. All right. Any other comments?